Hythar.
Yeah, it's going to be Visarius versus Hythar. And Hythar on Big Combri, another one of the players representing it in the field. And Visarius on Burn Queen, one of the only players to be representing Burn Queen in the entire field. And it's certainly paid off for him so far. He's made it all the way here. And I have to say, when I built my bracket this morning for our top 8, I have Visarius going all the way because I really do think that Burn Queen can just abuse these slower decks. And if Visarius gets off to any good start, he'll just absolutely run over these big Combri decks that need 4 or 5 turns to establish themselves on the board.
Yeah, when you're trying to accrue value with Mystic Ascendants, you're sort of weak to your opponent pointing Flame Blast at your face.
Yeah, certainly are. And we do see protects in the sideboard of a lot of our players, but I don't know if that's actually going to be enough in some of these matchups. And even then, I mean, Visarius just has such deadly units. Like Champion of Chaos, if it goes unchecked for even a turn, just poses such a huge threat to the Combri player. Sandstorm Titan can get down on the ground and block it, but you're trading a Sandstorm Titan for a Champion of Chaos, and you're still eating 4 damage, and sometimes even more. I mean, we've definitely seen burn players before utilizing that Champion of Chaos into things like Rapid Shot to just absolutely abuse their opponents.
Yeah, Rapid Shot is so powerful when you're ahead and your opponent doesn't have removal spells and is trying to block with units. And Visarius is playing 4 Rapid Shots. So I think that we're going to see a lot of good-looking blocks get blown out this match.
Yeah, I do think we're going to see that as well. We'll see as we jump into the matchup. I mean, I got to give the edge to Visarius here. Like, I think he really has a deck that can just run over on the ground. I mean, when you're playing Oni Ronin and Pyro Knight and your opponent often isn't interacting until turn 3 or 4, you can gain a bunch of value. It will depend on if Visarius ends up on the play in this matchup in more games than he is on the draw.
Yeah, it's certainly much more powerful to play a 1-drop on the play, especially Oni Ronin, who sort of snowballs a little bit. But Pyro Knight is better than Oni Ronin with Rapid Shot because of the Overwhelm. And so I'm looking at Visarius' deck list here. He's got a couple more interesting choices that I just want to point out. He has 4 Quarry. So in the mid to late game, he'll be able to more consistently find those 7 big burn spells. So even a Harsh Rule isn't always going to be sufficient to stop the damage from the units because he can always just ambush in a Cabal Countess at end of turn and hit for 6 immediately.
Ooh, and this might be the matchup that Hythar really needed. Visarius with a very slow hand. He ends up redrawing a hand that had 2 depleted power. So instead, he's a very light on units, although he does pick up a Champion of Chaos here, and this is going to be very, very important. Though we do see the Valkyrie Enforcer hanging out in the hand for Hythar, likely going to come down and put the silence on this Champion of Chaos. Will be answered by the Torch immediately.
Yeah, and so Hythar actually going to play a Seraph instead because now it doesn't die to the Torch, and thanks to the change to Champion of Chaos, even if Visarius powers it up here, the Seraph will still be able to trade with this champion.
Yeah, very true. Although I have a feeling, and we do see it, Visarius is going to jam this in and take advantage of this with the Rapid Shot. We're going to see what Hythar chooses to establish with next turn, as Visarius does have power up to answer most of his threats, although Seraph is insulated from all of the removal currently hanging out in Visarius' hand.
Yeah, playing that Seraph was very, very good. Heads up play from Hythar, knowing that Sarius is running Annihilate, so that wastes Sarius' power for this turn.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And yeah, Visarius just going to go ahead and drop this Bandit Queen and jam here, and this is going to work out well for him. He is going to push a bunch of damage. Hythar unable to respond. We'll see what Hythar chooses to follow up with here. Possibly a Valkyrie Enforcer into Temple Scribe play. And it definitely looks like we're going that way. Valkyrie Enforcer Silence going to come down on Champion of Chaos.
So somewhat awkwardly, Visarius' 4th power was a Diplomatic Seal, which doesn't provide either influence for the Champion of Chaos.
Yeah, that was certainly awkward last turn, although irrelevant now that we've moved past it, unfortunately, for Visarius due to the silence from the Valkyrie Enforcer. We're going to see how Visarius chooses to navigate these threats that his opponent has managed to cobble together against him. And I feel like you have to start jamming in here at some point and just accept that you're going to have to 2-for-1 yourself on this Seraph. I mean, you're not getting around it any other way currently.
Yeah, it looks like he might be going for the Cabal Countess end of turn and activate her ultimate to try and get some better attacks next turn.
Yeah, and that certainly is a line for him, although this Great Parliament is going to have something to say about it on the following turn when we have these 4/4s coming down, though Cabal Countess is going to be rather annoying for him in the meantime. Sorry is probably going to go ahead and just slam his Cabal Countess here and spend his next turn using his Annihilates and such. I feel like you can definitely afford to get the threat down at this point, and if Haidar is willing to nuke this board, well, you're not too sad about that either.
Yeah, Haidar has really managed to stabilize this board fairly well. It's going to be tough for Sarius to push enough damage for his burn spells to finish the game, especially considering he doesn't have any burn spells in hand right now.
Yeah, choosing a more interesting line, though, just opting to use double removal there, does find a Seed of Chaos, which would be nice if that champion was powered up, but without it being online, we're now going to see Great Parliament coming down out of Haidar and just creating more annoying threats on the board.
It's also somewhat interesting that Sarius used the Torch on the Valkyrie Enforcer instead of the Annihilate, because now he doesn't have any way to force this Seraph off the board.
Yeah, that is very true. He actually can't interact with this in the slightest, and he does pick up an Impending Doom. That's a very important card for Visarius in this matchup. That's going to allow him to tangle with the Owls in the air currently. So if he decides to just slam this on board, he actually will put himself in a great position, since Haidar is going to hold those Owls back on his turn, and he'll have the opportunity to annihilate them going forward. This is kind of curious, though, choosing this turn of all turns to go ahead and activate the Cabal Countess. I have a feeling that this is not going to work out in his favor like he intends it to.
Yeah, the more turns the Sarius waits, the worse it's going to get for him. His Seraph is going to be pumping out something big every turn.
Yeah, we'll see how the blocks go. I have to imagine that, yeah, he's going to double block with the Owls here. A little bit unfortunately for him. Ooh, does throw in a triple block at this point, which we're still going to see the Annihilate come down anyway, but this does give him the option of what he wants to take down here. And I definitely feel like you have to take down the Valkyrie Enforcer. Or, sorry,
the
Renegade.
Is exactly the same as the Owl, basically, only it's multi-faction, so it's harder for Visarius to remove with Annihilate.
Yeah, exactly. He has no opportunity to remove it with Annihilate, and this game is just becoming about these Seraph hits very quickly. Impending Doom now neutralized in the air by the inclusion of the Teriax Hatchling, although with that Rapid Shot picked up, we are going to see a jam here, and we're going to see how Haidar chooses to navigate the blocks here. And it looks like he is unfortunately going to double block this Impending Doom and just get absolutely blown out here by Visarius with this Rapid Shot.
Yeah, a nice thing about playing against Combre is they don't really have any fast spells that can mess with your combat tricks, with the minor exception of Protect. But if you're just playing Pump on your own units, Combre can't break that up at all.
No, they absolutely cannot. And we see basically the entire board get traded away. And now Haidar is in a position where he really needs to find something good off the top of his deck. And power allows him to keep using Seraph, but I mean, where he's beholden to the Seraph activations, and if anything ever shows up like a 0/0 out of something like an Idol of Death Strand, that's just going to absolutely kill his momentum and allow Visarius to swing this game in his favor immediately.
If there's one saving grace for Haidar, it's that he does have this Protect, so if he takes some damage from units, he won't just lose to an Obliterate.
Yeah, that Obliterate is going to be important here. Curious as to what Visarius is going to grab. I have to imagine you're inclined to grab Torch here since it speeds your clock up by a turn, although, as we just mentioned, that Protect will help out with that quite a bit. Interesting that he's just jamming all the units in here. I guess he realizes that he's never going to get a better opportunity to push damage, so he may as well do it now and set the clock to 1.
Yeah, you just get through 3 damage, sacrificing a unit, but that unit was never going to do anything after this turn anyways.
And Haidar needing absolutely to conjure up a unit does in fact conjure up. He does conjure up a unit, but it's not a flyer, and he really, really needed a flyer here. That was going to be his one saving grace.
I really like smacking for 10 here and playing Seraph as Haidar. That actually gives you lethal next turn.
Yeah, unfortunate for him, though. We're going to see this Impending Doom come in and just close the game out. Visarius is going to make some decisions where he's just going to try and force out any type of removal here. Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess he was trying to play around like the Desert Marshal maybe, but it's not in Hydar's hand. He ends up being able to finish it out. So Visarius taking the first game in the series. And I mean, again, that's kind of what I was going on about, is just that, like, it was certainly a slower game due to the awkwardness of his opening hand, but the Burn Queen deck can just close the game out from nowhere. They do have a bunch of ways to gain advantage in the matchup.
Yeah, that's right. He just couldn't answer the big flyer and impending doom at all, so he just lost the game.
Yeah, and that does happen, unfortunately. So let's take a look at these player sideboards. Let's check Hydar's first and see what he can do to answer all this aggression.
He doesn't really have a whole lot. Like, there's no healer's cloaks in his sideboard, for instance, which is the best combo card against Stonescar Burn. But he does have a couple of reality wardens, which Stonescar really can't deal with. It's out of range of all their removal spells except for a 7-power Flame Blast.
Yeah, we actually see Dawnwalkers coming in from Hydar as we're jumping into game 2. So I guess we will just have to check out what their sideboard plans are as we get into the matchup. And Visarius having to mulligan away what looked like a decent hand, but was a little bit slow. On the other hand, this is very, very slow with no units in hand. This is definitely going to give Hydar a very big opportunity to create a solid early game for himself.
Yeah, and this is the argument against Quarry in Burn Queen. Like, on the plus side, it gives you better access to your bit expensive burn spells in the late game. But in the early game, when you're playing Quarry on turn 2 instead of a unit, for example, Recano Outlaw, you're just not putting on any pressure.
Yeah, fortunate for Visarius there that he does pick up a Pyro Knight and is able to go ahead and jam that down for 0 cost off the Quarry. We're going to have to see how the rest of this match starts going along, though. I have to imagine Visarius is going to point this Varus favor at the 4-1. Possible that we'll see a Rapid Shot coming down as well to clean up the Temple Scribe and give him some extra damage with the Pyro Knight. But it's a tricky situation to navigate regardless.
Yeah, and here's what we were talking about before, where Rapid Shot and Power Knight is super good because you get to push through a whole bunch of overwhelm damage.
Yeah, it really is. Ooh, and 0 cost Torch picked up for Visarius. Had to take it over a power there, but I'm pretty sure you're happy with that trade. We're going to see, yeah, with Hydar just holding up Vanquish power, ooh, and even choosing to attack with the Dawnwalker, perhaps a little bit greedily. We're going to see this Varus favor likely come down and be able to take care of this Temple Scribe, and so at least give Visarius a route with which he can push damage. Bandit Queen picked up for 3 isn't nothing either. It's going to give him another body in the coming turns.
I kind of like attacking with the Dawnwalker. Like, you do have to eventually pressure the Stonescar deck so you don't just get obliterated 4 times and die.
Yeah, there is some element of that, certainly, and he is creating the much more lethal clock for the time being, but you do have to respect things like, by attacking with this Dawnwalker here, we're going to see this. So you're not able to soak any damage, unfortunately, although the Pyro Knight is pretty good about getting past these Dawnwalkers, and with the second one coming down, I have a feeling we're going to see Visarius just abuse Hydar absolutely this coming turn with the Bandit Queen and 0 cost Torch.
Yeah, Bandit Queen is going to do 7, which will knock Hydar down to 13. And he's got another 9 points of burn in hand.
Yeah, just picking up that other torch gives him another 9 points of burn indeed. And that means it's going to be very easy for him to find lethal while Hydar is just stuck trying to cobble together answers to this board.
Yeah, this Iron Throne brings back a Dawnwalker, but it comes back depleted. So it won't be able to block this turn.
Yeah, and Visarius can easily just go ahead and point this Obliterate at the undepleted Dawnwalker, or the unexhausted Dawnwalker, and push through the extra damage here. Although he's going to go a little bit of a different route, it looks like. Looks like he wants to point the Torch at the Dawnwalker and then use the Obliterate on the Martial Ironthorn, which I don't hate either. It still pushes your opponent down to 6. Although you definitely have to respect that, holding 9 burn is 4 damage off lethal here.
Yep, and Sarius does opt to spend all of his burn on the units here, so he's going to kind of have to be dependent on this Ardent Instigator and Dark Return.
Yeah.
Hydar's Sandstorm Titan is now going to be very powerful.
Yeah, Sandstorm Titan is going to be very powerful. Also going to bring back the Dawnwalker that was just killed, and now with Idar picking up Protect, Visarius just picking up a big Flame Blast in the late game isn't even going to be an option here. This is going to be a little tricky for him to navigate. He's definitely going to need to get this Pyro Knight online, preferably at this turn, if he can.
Yeah, that's true. The 6/5 Overwhelm does force a trade with the Sandstorm Titan, which opens up attacks with other units again.
Ooh, and we do see a Torch picked up. That's pretty decent here. Although, again, really wanted a Power, and the Pyro Knight would have much preferred the Torch on the following turn when he actually could have abused the Archimport Instigator and the 6/5 Pyro Knight together to create some damage on Hythar.
Yeah, so Sarius' plan might be to ultimate this Pyro Knight, trade it, and then Dark Return it back and threaten to ultimate it again. But that plan is going to be foiled by Hythar's Vanquish. Hythar won't be forced to take any damage from the 10-9 Overwhelm.
Yeah, he will be able to trade it off the first time with the Sandstorm Titan and vanquish it away with the second, although that does pose an interesting possibility where if Hythar is a little greedier and he vanquishes the Pyro Knight early to not have to make the trade, the Dark Return could pose a situation where Hythar actually doesn't have an answer in hand to the 10-9 and he is staring down a ton of Overwhelm damage.
Sorry, it's opting to trade 2 units of the Titan here, which does put Hythar into obliterate range, but little does Visarius know that there's a Protect waiting.
Although, with that damage hanging on top of him, he should recognize that that is very likely Protect. No ambush is allowed to come down at that point of the phase. Going to have to realize that there is some cute little combat trick hanging out around there. And interesting that Visarius looking for that Dark Return there, considering going back and getting the 3-cost Bandit Queen and forcing it out. And I have a feeling that's actually what he's going to do here. Unless he's looking to go get the Argenport Instigator, but I can't imagine that's what you're doing here. You're just looking to push damage now.
Yeah, the Bandit Queen forces a chump block, reduces Hythar's clock, gives you a few more turns to draw burn.
Yeah, and this does create a really good attack here, because we're likely going to see Hythar try and throw the... He's going to throw the Seraph under this, although, again, little does Visarius know that there's a Protect in hand. That being said, though, I think getting Protect out here is actually in Visarius' best interest. This opens up his outs by quite a bit. Power and Flame Blast, as well as Obliterate, will allow him to actually close this game out here.
Yeah, I think you actually have to let this Torch kill your Seraph if you're Hythar. Just the risk of dying to a Flame Blast or Obliterate is way too high, and you can deal with a 2-1 so easily.
Yeah, I can't afford to let it go, though, so he does, in fact, make the trade there, and this might end up costing him quite a bit as we push towards the later game. Hythar picking up a power, though, going to be able to spin the wheel of Seraph if he wants to, and it does look like that's going to be his choice here. We'll see if Visarius can punish this with ripping and Obliterate.
Yeah, so I guess that was he wanted to get the Protect out because he was planning to power down for a Seraph activation the next turn. But that's just such a high risk line compared to just being safe and holding that Protect.
Yeah, we're gonna see if Visarius is gonna go ahead and jam the Bandit Queen here just to trade a Dawnwalker away. Yeah, he has to trade a Bandit Queen for a Dawnwalker, though. It's not particularly good, but at the same time, I mean, Hythar is now holding lethal, yeah, and it looks like he's just going to force Visarius to ambush in this Cabal Countess just to block down the 12-12. So he's going to take one more draw step to look for an Obliterate, but this is looking like it's going game.
Yep, all comes down to this. Can Visarius draw one of his 8 big burn spells? And he does not.
Yeah, he does not indeed. So he can drop Bandit Queen and pressure for 4, but he really needed to pick up a Torch there to follow or an Obliterate. So not going to be able to punish. Hythar with the Scorpion Wasp in play anyway wasn't going to let that Bandit Queen chunk him for the free damage. So we were really playing for Obliterate or Bust. And in that case, it's just Bust for Visarius, not able to close out the matchup. And this is kind of unfortunate for Visarius. I really think that he can just absolutely run over the big Combri matchup, but that's 2 games in a row now where he has had very, very awkward starts, not having his 1-2-3 curve that he's looking for. And he is going to keep a 4-power hand just because he can play this Oni Ronin on turn 1, which is important to him. It's going to be met with this Temple Scribe, since unfortunately he does not have the play here, though, and kind of shut down very quickly.
Yeah, he has the 1-2-3, but it's not the best 1-2-3. It's Oni Ronin Quarry Cabal Countess instead of Oni Ronin Argenport Instigator Champion of Chaos.
Yeah, and Hydar's hand is just absolutely disgusting for this matchup. Like, he has an answer for every single one of Visarius' threats currently, and it's just not even going to be close. Like, we're going to see him just get absolutely run over. Ooh, Rapid Shot or Torch the pickup, though. I guess we're going to see Rapid Shot since it's not susceptible to Protect, although it kind of doesn't matter in this situation. This block was coming out no matter what. Although, interestingly enough, Visarius choosing to hold the Rapid Shot will end up paying off in the later turns, probably, since the Combra Healer was coming down regardless. But
yeah, you want to take Rapid Shot for big stuff like Combra Healer or Sandstorm Titan and not a 1-1.
Yeah, curious that he didn't take the Torch there. Then I kind of actually do favor the Torch, but I guess you are playing around Protect, so that does make some degree of sense. Curious to see if we're going to see a giant Combra Healer come down for Hydar and just stonewall Visarius completely.
Yeah, if Hydar doesn't make a 2-8, then that means this Cabal Countess is going to get through for 6 or more likely force a chump block before it gets vanquished.
Yeah, Cabal Countess will be able to start forcing through some damage. And I mean, with the Rapid Shots, if it weren't for the Vanquish, it's unlikely that he would ever be able to deal with it. Interesting that he does make the 2 big bodies on the Combra Healer. Since Combra Healer really isn't susceptible to any removal that Visarius is packing, I actually kind of favor the 2-8 Combra Healer in this situation.
Yeah, 2-8 is really good. Interesting. Visarius goes for Instigator instead of the Impending Doom here.
Yeah, that is a little bit interesting. And oh, wow, just opening himself up. This is actually really, like, this is a great double Rapid Shot for Visarius. Like, I feel like you honestly want to force through both here and just make your trades. I mean, you're going to keep your Cabal Countess alive and you're going to force through 2 damage regardless. And this puts Hydar on the back foot, actually, for the first time in this matchup.
Yeah, it feels very good to clear off both of those blockers that were going to cause you troubles for the whole game.
Yeah, although this Reality Warden is going to be a very big problem here. Though I have a feeling we're actually not going to see Reality Warden be the card coming down this turn. Or it will actually be. Very curious. I'm surprised Hydar didn't get a little bit greedy here and essentially try and play into like a Vanquished Scorpion Wasp or a Vanquished Desert Marshal.
Oh, what kills the Reality Warden? It's such a safe play against Stone Scar.
That is true. It is very, very safe against them. What kills it, though, is the 3rd Rapid Shot. That's, I guess, what you are at least a little concerned about. Though you did see 2, so you have to feel pretty good about it. But your opponent is playing 4 Rapid Shots, so there is always the possibility for the blowout.
That's true. Yeah, Rapid Shot does kill it.
Yeah, Rapid Shot kills and punishes him in a big way, although it looks like Visarius is just going to be playing Impending Doom and passing. We're definitely going to see this one get brought down to the ground with the Desert Marshal, and the next one getting vanquished away. Ooh, actually choosing to silence the Champion of Chaos, definitely not a bad hit there either.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to take the 4 overwhelm damage, although it's less important to preserve every point of health when you're at 30 and your opponent only has 2 cards in hand.
Yeah, I mean, you have to imagine as Hydar, you're feeling pretty good about this matchup from this position. You definitely can go to the long game right now. And with the Scorpion Wasp hanging out in hand, it's very likely that Visarius is going to have another slight upset with the Impending Doom. It depends on how liberal Visarius ends up being with this Annihilate. You know, if he holds it and waits and is able to take out the Scorpion Wasp, that will be the clock that he ends up creating. With 2 Annihilates picked.
The world don't do anything against this Reality Warden, just brickwalling all of Sarius' attacks.
Yeah, though the Annihilate, like I said, will be important for the Scorpion Wasp here, and Hydar has run out of gas officially. We're going to see him pass now that the Dawnwalker will just die in the air, and this actually gives Visarius a very, very real chance to take over in this game. Getting his choice between 2 power, just going to go ahead and take the seat here. Pretty irrelevant which one he takes. And we're going to see the Scorpion Wasp come down for the block, but the Annihilate out of Visarius to answer it. And now we're in a situation where Visarius actually can start pushing for the game. Hydar going to need to come up with an answer to this Impending Doom immediately, and hitting power is not what he's looking for here.
So the Scorpion Wasp did at least prevent 1 turn's worth of damage, so it gained Hythar 5 health. So if Hythar wants to start pushing with this Dawnwalker, he will win this race, but it looks like he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah,
To stay safe instead.
and here we go. Yeah, now we're gonna finally see it come down. Cabal Countess, and honestly, I mean, if you have the balls to do it, you can totally just activate the Cabal Countess and Ace base here. Like you really can. You can go about that route. And yeah, I like this, but you need to activate the Cabal Countess before you attack.
Yeah, otherwise you'll be forced to use the rapid shot on the count just getting blocked by Desert Marshal. You don't want to have to do that.
No, absolutely not. This rapid shot is 100% going down on this Reality Warden here. And I actually like forcing with everything here. I think any trades you pick up here are just fine for you. And given that Hythar is on a big Combri deck, you want to make your board as least susceptible to harsh rule as possible. So if you have to trade a couple units incidentally, that's not the end of the world for you. And we're definitely going to see this rapid shot come down out of Asarius and finally unlock this board for him.
Yeah, so Hythar forces Sarius to use the rapid shot rather than just chump blocking with a 2-1.
Ooh, and Hythar picking up a Desert Marshal finally has an answer now to the impending doom, although it's not great. And yeah, we're gonna see the slam coming out. And actually, yeah, can't even afford to answer the impending doom. Gonna have to answer the Cabal Countess first. We'll see if Asarius is willing to drop this Annihilate on the Dawnwalker. I guess it depends on where the block gets made. Dawnwalker likely going into Argenport Instigator here.
Yeah, I think that Sarius isn't even going to use this spell at all. Wants to save it for a potential Sandstorm Titan, as that's the card that could prevent him from just winning with Impending Doom.
Yeah, that is definitely what he will be respecting here if he chooses to hold it, although there is some consideration for the greed, essentially saying, do you have it, opponent? But in this case, is wise and decides to hold on to the Annihilate here. And Hythar picking up Vanquish going to be able to stop as much of the aggression, but the 3/3 Champion of Chaos is still a clock, albeit a slower one.
Yeah, Champion of Chaos silenced so many turns ago, just sat there uselessly for so long, and now pushing through a very dangerous clock.
Yeah, Impending Doom coming down 2 now speeds the clock back up to 2, and Hythar bricking on power there. This is not looking good at all for him. Let's see what Viserys picks up. Ooh, Viserys with another Cabal Countess is going to have a third threat on the ambush here. So now Harsh Rule isn't even good enough. I'm not really sure what he can even draw into at this point that's going to save him from this situation, knowing that the Cabal Countess is there. Temple Scribe into Vanquish. There you go. I mean, that's an out right there that at least creates a second blocker. But again, I mean, once this Cabal Countess... Actually, no. Cabal Countess
plus... Annihilate the 1/1, yeah.
Yeah, wow, holy. We're just going to see the blowout here. And that's such a nail-biter to lose out of Hythar there. But Viserys is just going to barely scrape by the skin of his teeth in this matchup. And, I mean, this is the power of the Burn Queen deck, especially built the way Viserys has built it. There are a lot of high-impact threats, and Rapid Shot just puts in a lot of work in this matchup here.
Yeah, so Sarius not even going for the win here, respecting another Desert Marshal or a Scorpion Wasp. So Hythar has one more chance, and now Harsh Rule actually does save him.
Yeah, that actually is a little bit curious. Like he does respect the Scorpion Wasp, but only finding Marshal Ironthorn not going to be good enough. Hythar just going to play it down and pass his turn back, and this is certainly going to meet the fate of the Annihilate. If that Dawnwalker was undepleted, he would at least have a blocker, but even then, with the Annihilate in hand, Viserys is certainly going to seal this game up.
Yeah, Dawnwalker, more like Sleepwalker.
Definitely not doing anything in this matchup, and the Obliterate picked up by Viserys just for insurance. This is going to bring him to a 2-1 victory over Hythar, pushing Hythar down into the alternative win bracket, as we have now deemed it. He's going to have a chance to face off against the winner of Unearthly and... who's Unearthly's
The Skijay.
The Skijay, of course. See, I can't even remember who I put in my bracket.
And then Sarius is going to move into winners finals and face against... Yeah,
he's going to be able to... Viserys is going to get to face off against Angry Chicken. who we just saw take it down Lub Up 2-1. So we're going to have a bit of a redo of what we just saw, although we'll be jumping down to the losers bracket, I believe, before we go back to the winners bracket. But we will be seeing a redo of the Big Combri versus Burn Queen matchup. So we'll see if Visarius can stave off yet another Big Combri player, as I'm sure he's had to do multiple times in this tournament already, with the field being very populated by Big Combri. It was certainly a popular deck this weekend, if not the most popular archetype.
Yeah, our top 8 is 4 Big Combri decks and 4 decks built to beat Big Combri. So we'll see who ends up on top in the end.
Yeah, it really is just an absolute slugfest here in the top 8, and we're gonna see if if the different players are able to overcome. I do believe that in every single one of the Big Combri matchups that there is a player playing an opposing deck to beat it. In fact, yeah, I'm pretty sure that is the case, since I believe Unearthly is playing against Skij, and I believe Skij is on Big Combri as well. So yeah, Unearthly playing Rakano into Skij, and then Catalyst and Paradox down there also going to be a Big Combri versus deck built to beat Big Combri. So it was 4 Combri decks playing to keep their tournament lives alive.
So I think we're going to move into the losers bracket now after a very brief break.
Yeah.
So we'll be back. Don't turn away. The losers bracket will be coming up very quickly here.
Yeah, stay tuned, everybody.